I'm Kathy Boland, Assistant Dean. I want to provide some tips for constructing a good application package. Just as you might dress up to make a good first impression on someone, you should construct your application package to make a good first impression on us. You can take steps before you even read the application instructions. Remember, you are applying to become a graduate student in the School of Social Work. This means you want to show the admissions committee that you will do well in graduate school and that you will be a good social worker. Go to our website and learn about our MSW program. Talk to people you know who are or have been graduate students. If you do not have an undergraduate degree in social work, talk to some social workers. Knowing about the rigors of graduate school and knowing about social work will help you as you complete the various parts of the application package. Read through all the instructions before you begin. For those of you who cook, this is like reading the recipe all the way through before you begin. You want to be sure you have all the resources you need. You might want to check off the various parts as you complete them. 2 essays or statements are important parts of the application package. Read the instructions and draft your essays. Notice I said draft. Don't turn in a first draft of these important essays. Remember, you want to make a good impression. But also remember, you must make a good impression about you. Get help. Have someone read your essays and give you suggestions, but present yourself in the essays, not someone else. Another important part of your application package is your resume. This is a resume for an application, not for a job, so it might be a little different. We want to know your educational background, even though you'll have to put it somewhere else in your application. Your experience with human and social services, whether paid or volunteer, and any other experiences you have had that may have some bearing on your ability to be a good graduate student and a good social worker. Your letters of recommendation are important as well. Be sure to include at least one from a professor in your undergraduate major. This is a person who should know well what kind of a student you are and how well suited you probably are for graduate work. Also, include at least one employer, if you've been employed, who can speak to your work habits, especially if the person can provide perspective on whether you're likely to be a good social worker. You might have 2 professors and an employer or a volunteer supervisor, or 2 employers and a professor. Remember, these should be people who can judge how well suited you are to graduate school and to becoming a social worker. These are not character witnesses. A letter from your clergy person or your next-door neighbor is not likely to be helpful for this purpose. Finally, let me say a word about test scores. You've already heard about the GPA requirements and when you need to include a standardized test score. Some of you may want to include a test score even if you do not need to. If you have a high GPA, say above a 3.5, and you are a good test taker, a GRE above 1,000 can make you more competitive for a university fellowship. If your GPA is not as good as you'd like it to be, but you are a good test taker, a good GRE or MAT score can provide that extra evidence that you are likely to be a successful graduate student. If you decide to take a standardized test, do some studying first. You'll want to become familiar with the format of the test and be refreshed about some of the basics you may not have worked with in several years. Remember FOIL in algebra? If you don't, and you're going to take the GRE, study. It'll come back to you pretty quickly.